Thank you for tuning in on this China Café podcast. My name is Monique Knapen. I am the chair of the Association Netherlands-China. I hope you will enjoy our VNC China Café podcast. If you're interested in our other VNC activities, please visit our website of the VNC, vnc-china.nl. And if you want to receive our updates regularly, our newsletters and our magazine, then you can also consider become a member. Then you will always be updated. Thank you.
I think you all came for this exciting topic, the Nexperia case. The Nexperia case, it sits right at the crossroads of the global semiconductor industry, but also geopolitics, also national security. It has all kinds of angles. And I think we thought it was wise to take the time and invite serious experts on this field to see to see more than just what's in the newspapers or what we hear from the media. It's good to deep dive into this subject because it's a sensitive subject. And it has results also for the whole industry and even for geopolitical issues. And also for the future, so how Europe and China will navigate this sensitive technology in this complex and changing world. So it's a pleasure to have a full house. We're sold out. It's a record breaker audience tonight for the China Café, so we're really proud of it. We have invited Charles Smits and we have invited René Rijmakers. Charles, he is an experienced legal and corporate affairs leader in the semiconductor world. He has been working as a general counsel, also as the head of corporate affairs at Nexperia, so you will be answering questions from within and from the deeper insights you have from your experience there. And before that you worked at NXP, at Philips, at AkzoNobel, and currently you are advising high-tech companies through a platform called Hague Corporate and FGS Global. And you also chair the Dutch semiconductor cluster, which is called Business Cluster Semiconductors Netherlands. Yes. So a true expert, I would say. We also invited René Rijmakers. He's a journalist by heart. He started working as a freelance journalist after completing his studies in chemistry. Mm-hmm. And you wrote, amongst others, for the NRC Handelsblad and for Intermediaire, mostly about ICT and the semiconductor industry. And in 1999 you have founded TechWatch and launched also Bits and Chips, which is a trade and opinion magazine for the high-tech industry. And you've written some books also about Philips NetLab and ASML, and still writing for Bits and Chips mostly at the moment, and for High-Tech Systems magazine. So I'm really happy that you took the time. We did some preparations also in advance already, and that you took the time to sit here and answer the questions that Cindy's gonna ask us. And Cindy is actually an expert herself. First of all, she is our good friend in the South and the volunteer for VNC in the South. So she's part of our team. She was born in Beijing and she came to the Netherlands already at the age of 20, and you studied computer science at the TU Delft, and you began working in companies like NXP and ASML and Philips, but you also do interim CEO and COO work for tech companies, Chinese tech companies who want to land in Holland. So you are really the one who can address the questions from an expert mindset. So I'm happy that you can conduct this interview for us. We have a technique that's not really helping us. I think we've seen enough of this picture. I will shut it down. And I'd like to give the floor to you. I want you to, the questions that you have, please ask them after the interview, because we will be recording this, and then we have an integral recording, and the Q&A, we still have time left after the interview. Enjoy this session.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So, good evening. So, we have two experts. I'm just a mediator. And yeah, I talked to several audience before we came in. I noticed the people here really read the information from multiple sources. I read from 3 languages. I read in Chinese, in Dutch, in English. And regarding the Nexperia case, the source of information is very, very diverse, and they can even contradict each other. So I would like to take around 2 minutes, so please bear with me for the first 2 minutes to really recap what exactly is happening with Nexperia. I believe you have quite some solid knowledge, but yeah, you never know, maybe some information you don't know yet. Back to almost 10 years ago already, 2016, Nexperia was created after JAC Capital, in Chinese is called Jianguang Ziben, acquired NXP standard product unit. That was the first Chinese buyer. Wintech Technologies, the current buyer, became the new owner in 2020 fully. 2024, December, the US placed Wintech on the BIS entity list. And then we come into this year, September 29, the US expanded the affiliate rule, so-called 50% rule, extending the restrictions from the mother company Wintech to Nexperia. 1 day after, Mr. Vincent Karremans, the Dutch Minister of Economic Affairs, applied this Goods Availability Act, in Dutch is called the WBG, and introduced a temporary oversight. Early October, the Dutch courts, please remember here, Dutch courts suspended the CEO, Mr. Zhang, or in another term, Mr. Wing, in other term in social media, and assigned Wintech's voting rights to a completely independent trustee. October 4, China restricted exports of Nexperia China-made components, and then the global supply flows start to shake. Mid-October, a high-level dialogue finally began to start between the Netherlands and China. The wafer shipment from Europe to China were paused, and the European automotive makers reported shortage of components. October 30th, President Xi and Trump, so US-China, agreed to suspend the US affiliate rule, which was the basis for the governmental order, for 1 year. So they may restart in next year. And then we come into November. November 5, Nexperia confirmed the CEO, Mr. Zhang, would not return and maintain the pause of a wafer shipment to China. November 19, Mr. Karremans has officially suspended his governmental order. However, please, if you listen carefully, the suspension of the governmental order is completely in parallel with the court order, court decisions. So the governmental order from Mr. Vincent Karremans does not overrule the court decision. After the suspension and the discussion between EU Trade Commissioner Marcos Selkovic and the Chinese authorities, China waived licensing requirements, provided that the goods to EU are only for civilian use only. And then the last 2 events. December 3, Mr. Karremans canceled his trip to Beijing in the last moment due to the agenda reason. And December 9th, which is the last major event to our knowledge, Wintech invited Nexperia custodian Mr. Guido Dierck and his unit to Beijing for a control talk. And to my knowledge, there was no official response yet. So that's a recap of exactly what is happening. So this is in general, we try to collect information from all the authorities and the official website from Wintech and Nexperia. Anything wrong, missing?
Well, a lot of other things happened, but we will talk about it.
Yeah. So good start, good start. Yeah, so before we come into the introduction of Nexperia, supply chain, everything, maybe you two want to share what is your motive? You want to have a public speech about this sensitive topic?
Maybe Charles should.
Okay, yeah,
Maybe Charles should, because my motive is just to inform the public. I'm a journalist. That's my job. But I would myself would be more curious to hear from Charles what his motive is, because mostly we journalists don't hear about what people like Charles have in mind and what they do.
Okay, I can tell my motive. So I have a big heart for this company, and not me only. I think there are quite a few people here in the room that either worked for the company or for the business in the past at Philips. I see a few colleagues in the backside. I see over there. I see also 2 colleagues of Nexperia currently in the room. I want to be able to provide you some context, broader context than only about the facts that happened in the last few months, because there's much more to it. And I'm not going to share any company confidential information, but I can give some context, and also can indicate where the press is simply wrong in stating some of the things that are being stated.
Very good.
Yeah? Thank you.
So before we come into the heated discussion, and probably the people here already heard, maybe you have full knowledge already how the Nexperia operates. So the wafers designed in Europe, later shipped to Asia for productions. Maybe one of you guys maybe Shao can give an introduction about where are the manufacturing sites, who are the customers, how come it's a big impact to the automotive industry?
Yeah, so according to the numbers on the table when I was one of the board members of Nexperia, we shipped approximately 10% of the full yearly volume of chips in the world. 10% in volume, not in turnover, because these chips are very cheap. But at the time, public data showed that there were yearly 1,000 billion chips produced, and Nexperia made 100 billion chips a year. That's, you can count, I forgot the number, but every hour 60 million or so, even more. So, and these chips are very simple chips. They contain one transistor mostly, and with on and off switching functions. And these are the things that you need for each device to make it work. But they're not, high end. The technology is quite old, and there are many competitors in the world. The chips are being made in 2 phases. One is to make the wafer, and the wafer is produced either in Hamburg or in Manchester. And there are some exceptions, but these are the most important fabs within Nexperia. And then the wafers go, depending on their functionality, either to Philippines, Malaysia or China, where the wafers are being processed into chips. And then these chips come back formally to the Dutch entity in the Netherlands, because that's the headquarter entity. And the headquarter entity sells all these chips worldwide. So that's how it works, how it used to work.
And now?
Yeah, to put it in more perspective, Nexperia is just a very small player. It's strategically not important, I would say. If you look at a discrete semiconductor market, you have players like Rome, Texas Instruments, and a couple of others. And Nexperia makes discretes, but they are not playing in the high margin components. Like you have driver assistance components, you have microcontrollers, the motor control unit, and you also have power electronics needed for electric vehicles. Those are very high value components of high margins. And Nexperia is playing in the field where a lot of other players are as well. But they are very successful. They are in their arena. They have a growing market share. So they grow with about, according to Tech Insights, with about 15%, while other players are declining. But they make, and they also, so they in about 75% of the cars there are Nexperia components, and that's why you get this distortion of the market if components are not available. So I would say Nexperia components are not strategic, so they're not on the dual use list or defense list or whatever. Charles knows better than me. You can add up to that. But about the market share, the discrete component market is about 36 billion now. It's growing to 41 in a couple of years, and Nexperia is having 5% of that market. So it's 2 billion turnover.
Yeah, one thing to add, you say it's not strategic. I think the thoughts about whether something is strategic or not has shifted. I think today Nexperia is being seen as very strategic, and that's just because of the, let's say, the dependence, right? When I sold Nexperia actually when I was working for NXP, together with a team, of course, but I did the negotiations and was responsible for the project, and we sold it to the highest bidder at the time, which was a Chinese company, as you just heard from Cindy. JC and Wise Road, by the way. And that was simply the highest bidder and the most profitable bidder for NXP. And at that time, we also went to Washington to ask the US government for approval of that transaction, which is normal in these cases. And it was actually very easy. Because the argument was, well, the technology is old, it's available everywhere, and so this is not a matter of national security, so not strategic. And if you look at it today, obviously such a transaction would not be possible anymore for national security reasons. So I would say today, Nexperia is strategic, not so much of technology, because of other reasons.
Mm-hmm. Because of the penetration to the...
the dependence, and also, there's no questions now, sorry. Yeah.
In the end, yeah.
So
was the approval with the US government via the CFIUS?
Sorry?
Was the approval via the US?
Yeah, so CFIUS approved the transaction in 2017 and didn't need to approve the transaction in 2019 to win because it was already Chinese, so for the Americans it didn't really matter, I think, that whether Chinese A or Chinese B would own the company. In 2019 we also renewed the approval request to the German authorities, because legally for the German authorities we needed the second approval, and it was also given. So at that time it was not a problem at all.
Okay, clear, thanks. Really? Something?
Well, I just wanted to ask Charles, how much time does it take to change the component? Because a lot of components which Nexperia supplies are readily available from other suppliers. Sure. So how much time does that take to change that? Because they in their market, they have, in the automotive industry, they have about 40% of the market. That's my.
What's the background of your question?
So we have these chokeholds now in the market, so to supply to the automotive industry. So the automotive industry can't get any Nexperia components. Mm-hmm. They weren't available for a time. So how much time does it change for a customer?
For a customer, a few months, I guess, because they need to do more, a new qualification, most probably. Automotive qualified means you need to go through a process before you can change the component, unless the customer agrees. So that takes time. It takes time, maybe a few weeks, 3 months, depending on the situation.
Yeah. In the workshop preparation, I think, René, you mentioned a quite interesting side news I never noticed. I guess lesser people also noticed. ITEC or ITEC is a spin-off company from Nexperia. And they produce, emerge as independent semiconductor equipment manufacturing from Nexperia, so it's already independent legal entity. And you mentioned they wrap up very quickly in Malaysia and Vietnam, if I'm correct. so outside China, and I wonder if there's any link
Well,
between these two events.
ETEC is actually producing two kinds of machines, which is testing machines and packaging machines. I think that so Nexperia has allowed about 500 patent families, and I think that a lot of the patents are also in the machinery. And the people that I spoke to from Nexperia said to me that they see the ETEC part. They have now a big opportunity to sell machines or to make machines for the Malaysia and the Philippine factories who ramping up very fast now. Charles told me that it's about 80% of the Nexperia chips got packaged in Dongguan, in the Chinese factory.
70.
I was told that the factories are ready to take these machines in the Philippines and Malaysia. So it's a matter of time before Nexperia chips come out of the Philippine and the Malaysian factories, I guess.
I would say let's not jump to conclusions. If I were an Nexperia manager, I would start looking at alternatives for the Dongguan factory, because you don't know if it will ever be available. And if you look at alternatives, the most probable thing to do is to invest in back-end capacity outside of China, close to your existing facilities. And if they do that, then obviously they need a new production hall with equipment, and then obviously it's logical that you use the same equipment as you use in China, and that would be also high-tech equipment. Could be an opportunity, but for now I would say that doesn't solve the problem of Nexperia. Mm-hmm. There's other things to do right now.
Yeah, so there's no fact to prove there's a link, but could be different dynamics going on at the same time.
But it's not, I think, important for today.
Yeah. Okay, so we want to talk about what's in the invitation. We also want to talk about what behind the scenes. So what is on the news, what is in the social media, what is field mouse, and what is really behind the scenes. Charles, maybe this case is for you. So when we look at this unfolding case of this Nexperia, what are the key moments that public is not really aware of, but somehow is very decisive for the situation at this moment?
So you have a company in 2017 that's a cash cow of NXP Semiconductors. So the money they earn is taken out of the business and put into another business of NXP, which is a fine strategy. But NXP decided to sell off this business because of strategic reasons, didn't fit their portfolio strategy, and which I think was a good, let's say, momentum for the business, because the new owner, the Chinese owner, decided to heavily invest in the business and to put the money back. So there was no real dividend stream to China. The money that was earned in the Netherlands as the headquarter was invested back into the business. That was for the first 2 years already, where we saw major investments in our European fabs, but also in our Chinese activities. And then when Wingtech came on board, Mr. Wing was a very ambitious person. He wanted to grow Nexperia from 2 billion to 10 billion in 10 years' time, which is an almost impossible, I think, thing to achieve, but it created a different mindset in the company. A company that had always been a cash cow, cost-driven, etc., suddenly became a company that had to think in terms of growth and new opportunities. And I think that was a very good, let's say, start of Mr. Wing, although he had a few problems. There was COVID, and he was not able to travel, so that was an issue. But he was also courageous, I think, from China to keep on investing in this business, also in Europe. If I look at, for example, the activities in Nijmegen, we started with 150 people in Nijmegen, headquarters. And when I left 2 years ago, we had over 500 people employed in Nijmegen. And that's representative of what also happened in other sites in Europe. Mr. Wing also, I'm not going to, let's say, only say positive things about Mr. Wing, because there are also things that should have been better. But to his credit, he also decided to acquire a fab in Wales, right? And that was a very negative experience for me personally also, because I did that project, and we acquired the fab when it was almost bankrupt. People had low salaries compared to the salaries of our people in Manchester. There were no pension rights. And we decided to acquire the fab and started an overhaul of the fab. So we increased the salaries, we introduced pension rights, and we started investing in new equipment in order to bring business from a subcontractor in Taiwan back to Wales. So I would think that was all positive until the Ukraine invaded. Russia. That's really news, right? Well, they did, but until Russia invaded Ukraine, and the negative sentiment against China in the UK became very tense, and unfortunately the Nexperia transaction was some scapegoat for that. I was personally heavily involved in the whole process. I still believe that decision was purely political driven, without any true national security concern. And this may be on public, by the way, on the podcast. So, because I truly believe that this was a wrong decision, politically driven. But look at Mr. Wing, who takes the courageous decision to buy this company, invest heavily also in in Europe, and then is, let's say, basically punished by politics to do that. At the time, there was not much support also from the Dutch government for Nexperia. So, you can see that if you're a Chinese person and you do all these things, that you feel a little bit unsafe and unprotected. Now, I'm not saying that the court decision is what it is, and you can all read it and fully believe that it was the right decision. So Mr. Wing made a few mistakes, serious mistakes. But to his credit, the world had not become easier for him in the last few years. And we're now in a situation where the company is in big trouble, obviously, because we own, and I say we because I still feel as if I'm part of Nexperia, but I'm not anymore, obviously. But we own the fab in Guangdong, but it doesn't work anymore for Nexperia, and that means that 70% of the back-end products cannot be produced, and that's a major blow to the company.
Exactly. There's always a rumor around, especially in the Dutch social media. There's a potential IP transfer from an.
Yeah, that's. I don't know all the details, but obviously Mr. Wing decided at some point in 2020 or so, and that's all public knowledge, to invest in another fab, a 12-inch new wafer fab. I don't know. Do you know the place?
Winsky.
Yeah, Wingsky, but I don't know where. It's close to Shanghai, I suppose. I've been there. Lingang, yeah, Lingang. Been there. It's an impressive fab, really impressive. And Nexperia needs these kind of products because you need to compete with competitors that have 12-inch of wafers, and Nexperia only has 6 to 8-inch wafers. So it's a technical term, but essentially it means that you have a lower cost price, you are more effective when producing these wafers. And Mr. Wing decided to open that fab, invest in it with other partners, and obviously if you then want to shift new production to that fab, you need to also tell them how to make these products, and that means an IP transfer. This is completely normal in the industry. We do that with all foundries. That's based on a contract. We negotiated and signed that contract. That was still in my time. and that obviously provided for the normal, rules of the game in such a situation. So I do not recognize any illegal IP transfers to China myself. I'm not saying they are not there, but I don't recognize them.
Yeah. Thanks. So
from my time,
the motivation of Karamans, Minister Karamans, is still unclear. Huh? It's not known by the public, and we had discussions in the House, in the Tweede Kamer, and it's actually not clear what Karamans motivated to take this decision. At least not to me.
So what do you think? Was the decision from Mr. Karamans wasn't justified in a certain way?
Well, it's suspicious that the decision was taken a day after Nexperia got on the list by the Americans. So it's for a journalist that's suspicious.
Yeah.
But no.
If I can comment to it, I think that let's go back. It's very easy to judge these kind of things afterwards, right? But when I looked at the sequence of events, I think on Friday was the minister decision, and on Monday or Tuesday was the court decision. The week thereafter, and this should never have been a geopolitical issue. This is about a CEO that apparently has misused his authority as a CEO and shareholder to push the company into a very unfavorable transaction with another company. And, we have rules for that in the Netherlands. And these rules are, for people outside Netherlands, not always easy to understand, because we have a special court system for that, and that's called the Enterprise Chamber in Amsterdam, and not all countries have that. But when there are management conflicts and there are serious doubts of mismanagement in a company that negatively affect the interest of the company itself, there are ways to ask a court judgment to stop that. That's not the first time that it happens. I think it also happened earlier with Chinese-owned companies, but normally these cases do not reach the newspaper. And these court decisions are also not published. In this case, when somebody is found by the judge to not use authorities properly, then this can happen, but it has nothing to do with the nationality. Could be an American manager, could be a German manager, and this is what I think what it should be about. But I think, unfortunately, the decision of the minister put the whole case in a geopolitical context. And I think that if you look only at the court decision did exactly what was needed, and that was to take away the CEO and the shareholder at least for the time being, from the decision process.
Yeah, totally.
That would be my answer.
Yeah, totally agree. I think starting from a mismanagement from a CEO, regardless he or she is German, Chinese, Russian, Latino, but somehow is amplified by the geopolitics tension at this moment. You both are certainly insider. What are the biggest misperceptions in the media at this moment? Dutch English, Chinese, Dutch English maybe, and what exactly is happening within the company in the Nexperia?
I'll hand it over to Charles as well.
You let me do a lot of work.
I'm just a sidekick.
Really take all the credit.
Misperception is that, for example, the Ministry of Economic Affairs has never taken control over the company. That you read that in almost every newspaper. That's simply not true. The only thing that they did was they decided that some strategic decisions, if they were to be taken, they would need the approval of the minister. Right? But the normal day-to-day business of the company is still in the hands of the management, including the new statutory director that has been appointed by the court. And the other misperception is, for example, that China said we will allow the exports of Nexperia chips to the extent they are not for military purposes. Well, I can tell you these products are not for military purposes. So yeah, who invented that, I don't know, but it adds to whether as if these products are of strategic military importance to everybody outside China. It's simply not true. So I would say these are the two. Maybe I'm forgetting, but we'll talk about
it. Always
it.
come back.
Yeah.
Can always come back. So yeah, and surprisingly, this case became really the negative impact between China and Netherlands, even to Europe, if you read the Chinese social media. So the Netherlands used to be, or still, very attractive investment location, investment destination for the Chinese companies. You see all these e-car, tech companies, material company, all these companies, they come to the Netherlands as one of the attractive location. But this case, I'm looking at you both, maybe Renee this time. So what do you think will be the impact?
The impact is that actually, if you look at semicon, Chinese companies are not that welcome anymore. Certainly not in the ASML supply chain. So Chinese companies are interested in buying companies in the ASML supply chain, but of course then if they get that call, the suppliers, they of course call ASML and say if that's okay, and they get a no. That happens. There's also a lot of recruitment from Chinese, like Huawei. You see that that causes a negative sentiment because it's of course threatening to ASML. But especially if you look at the equipment, then the market is closed for Chinese companies, I would say. I'm not sure if that's also the case with components. Of course, no, we got a green light to be bought by Nexperia. I don't know how that worked, but they got the green light even a couple of years ago. Equipment, market is closed.
It's as a Chinese, it's a little bit sad to hear those. And do you think it will become softer or it will become different after years?
Well, I hope it will become softer because we can strengthen each other. If the US hadn't distorted this market, there would be now a nice cooperation, and China wouldn't be have this big effort to copy ASML's technology. I think that would be much better.
So from the continuing talk, so if we stand as a standing point of a Dutch company, so if a Dutch company need to operate in China, with China from now on, what are the potential vulnerabilities they need to face? What kind of homework they need to do before they start? Or they are in it already? I'm looking at both.
Well, I really don't know. I'm out of the business currently.
There are lots of opportunities, of course. What I feel or what I hear, if I listen, for instance, to The Economist, you can read that and you can see that China is they are going to produce outside China. They will. It's like when I listen to economists at The Economist, they say there's a China goes global strategy, and if they are going to work together and go to produce outside China, that would be also have big opportunities for Dutch companies or for European companies.
I just pick up a simple example. And I know quite some companies, they try to avoid fully dependent on the Chinese manufacturing sites or supply chain. So they go to Vietnam, Philippines, other Asian countries. But in quite some industries, the manufacturing, the total supply chain is not yet there. So it will take years. Mm-hmm. Or even maybe after years it won't become reality. But business is business, so business need to continue.
Yeah.
So
China is the gym for the business. You get fit there. It's really brutal competition there, and a lot of Western companies want to be in China because China is innovating at a fast pace, and you don't want to miss that opportunity because they will also need that. However brutal this market is.
Within Europe, we talk a lot about this key sector strategic autonomy. Semiconductor is definitely one of them. Artificial intelligence, photonics, quantum computing, all these kind of sensitive sectors and key sectors. What do you think this Nexperia case, are they going to accelerate or slow down the European strategic autonomy in these key sectors?
Yeah, to be honest, the European strategic autonomy are for now words for me. And obviously a few years ago there was this intention to bring 20% of the semiconductor production back to Europe, which I think is on the European, there was Commissioner Breton, I think, that said that. I think they have abandoned that now again because everybody understands it's so expensive to achieve that goal, and then you're still dependent because then you have a wafer, and then so you have to bring the wafer still to Asia to make it into a chip. So then you shift the dependence one step further, and then after that you need to make a product with a chip. And guess where these products are normally made, right? So I think that's, well, as we talk a bit more intelligence going on now on this subject, personally I think it's more better to talk about strategic dependence than on strategic autonomy, because we will always remain dependent for the next decades, in my mind. Maybe some of you don't agree with me. But I think it's good to invest in the control points that we have and the things that we are good in, and then invest major money in that, and keep the others dependent on us, right? Like with ASML, if we keep ahead of the rest, then we will have a strong point in negotiation. But you will always have to negotiate with other countries and continents.
Yeah, I agree with that, and. Europe should be aware that they have a lot of strategic positive points. So Europe is still strong in a lot of areas. We have learned from ASML and Airbus that Europe is really able to pull off things, but we indeed also need these companies who make products. We lost the telecom equipment. Our telecom equipment precision, automotive is now enduring a heavy fight with EV in China, and in China they have really good strategies. If you are in certain cities, if you are a taxi driver and want to buy a car, you can't get a combustion car. You have to buy an e-vehicle. Yeah. So there's long-term thinking and long-term strategy, and we in Europe don't do that. And in the United States, it's even worse.
So I'm going to ask the last questions, but you don't have to provide the answer, but share your thoughts here. So if you are the Dutch government, and from now on, in fact, you already have to do the foreign ownership company screening. So as you said, for control. So you said the Dutch are very good on control. So what will be the code of conduct on this political decision making, on this foreign company screening? So who are welcome, who are not welcome, or are they sector driven? Are they supply chain, proposition driven? So what is your way of thinking here?
I would like to have an equal playing field. So I would like to see legislation, like for patents and for legal behavior, to be handled the same in China as in Holland. So that IP that doesn't get copied. So you want good legislation in place, a good jurisdictional system, and everybody has to be treated equally. That's for me a sound foundation to
So
do
if
trade.
the country reached to this level, so the Dutch will open the arms to say you are more than welcome to come into our ecosystem. Is that what you are suggesting?
More or less, that's what I'm suggesting. Yeah.
I think we're far away from equal treatment, unfortunately. So I guess I would look at opportunistically for now, because there are examples where you need foreign capital to invest in your own business because there's not much or not willingness to invest. To use, let's say, Dutch or European money, and you have to make a trade-off. Do I want this company or this business to grow or not? And if you say no, not to grow, but then the consequence may be that the business will not be able to keep up to market. So you have to do something. I guess I would, for now, look at it opportunistically.
Yeah, so I think we are over time. It's a very, very informative.
Big thank you to the three of you, and I think we have given you more information than you can read in the newspapers, and I must give you a compliment as an audience that we did this peacefully and respectfully, although we have maybe different opinions on certain angles. So thank you very much.
I sincerely hope you enjoyed this VNC China Café podcast. If you are interested in future VNC activities and would like to stay updated about future China cafes, please go to our website vnc-china.nl to become a member or just find out what's going on. Stay tuned for our next podcast.